When it comes to discovering infidelity, most men typically stumble upon the truth by chance, perhaps returning home unexpectedly, catching a snippet of a suspicious conversation, or stumbling upon incriminating evidence. However, in my case, the revelation came in an unexpected form, an innocent email from my wife. It arrived in my inbox, bearing a subject line that seemed innocuous, about yesterday. Intrigued yet puzzled, I opened it, only to be greeted by a message that left me reeling. Anne, my wife of 18 years, had penned a note filled with vague references to the previous day, expressing sentiments of happiness and anticipation for the week ahead. She even signed off as your lady, a term of endearment that struck a discordant note given the circumstances. What made this correspondence particularly perplexing was that Wednesday, the day she referenced, was like any other mundane weekday, no special occasions, no memorable events. As I sifted through her words, searching for hidden meanings, a sinking feeling settled in the pit of my stomach. Could this be a veiled confession? A subtle admission of guilt? Or perhaps just a harmless misunderstanding? I wrestled with these questions, torn between confronting her immediately and biding my time to gather more evidence. Opting for the latter, I observed and closely in the following days, scrutinizing her every move for any signs of deception. Yet, outwardly, she appeared her usual self, no telltale signs of guilt or unease. It was a waiting game, fraught with tension and uncertainty. Meanwhile, I took matters into my own hands, enlisting the help of a private detective agency to conduct discreet surveillance. The detective's findings only served to confirm my worst fears, Anne's clandestine rendezvous with another man captured in damning photographs. My heart sank as I grappled with the devastating reality of her betrayal. Armed with irrefutable evidence, I knew the time for confrontation had come. But even as I prepared to confront Anne, a whirlwind of emotions, anger, hurt, and betrayal, threatened to overwhelm me. Yet, beneath the turmoil, there lingered a glimmer of hope, a hope that clarity, however painful, would pave the way for healing and closure. Thus, armed with resolve, I steeled myself for the difficult conversation that lay ahead, knowing that whatever the outcome, it would mark the end of an era, the end of a marriage built on trust, now shattered by deceit. I nodded in agreement as the detective confirmed the unpleasant truth, acknowledging the discomfort that often accompanies such revelations. With my suspicions now confirmed, I found myself at a crossroads, grappling with a myriad of emotions and uncertainties. Unable to focus on work amidst the turmoil brewing within me, I abandoned my futile attempts at productivity and instead turned my attention to formulating a plan. In addition to confronting my wife's infidelity head-on, I found myself pondering the circumstances that led to Anne inadvertently sending the incriminating email to me instead of her paramour. The realization dawned upon me that her lover was none other than our neighbor, Mark Bradshaw, a revelation that only served to compound the pain of betrayal. The fact that Mark and his wife, Bobby, were close friends only added salt to the wound, leaving me feeling blindsided by the deception that had been unfolding right under my nose. Amidst the whirlwind of emotions, I grappled with the question of what course of action to take. Revenge fantasies danced tantalizingly at the periphery of my mind, while the urge to beg and to reconsider her actions warred with my wounded pride. Yet, amidst the chaos of conflicting emotions, a plan began to take shape, a plan that would not only bring closure to this painful chapter but also ensure that justice was served. After much deliberation, I resolved to embark on a two-pronged approach designed to achieve my objectives swiftly and decisively. The first step involved enlisting the detective agency's assistance once again, this time to gather further evidence of Anne's infidelity. With the motel identified as their regular meeting place, I requested discreet surveillance of their rendezvous, with the aim of capturing irrefutable proof of their illicit affair. Simultaneously, I began laying the groundwork for the second phase of my plan, one that would involve confronting Anne and Mark with the evidence of their betrayal. With determination fueling my resolve, I steeled myself for the difficult conversations that lay ahead, knowing that whatever the outcome, it would mark the beginning of a new chapter in my life, one free from the shackles of deceit and betrayal. I devised a strategy that I likened to a divide and conquer approach, a twofold plan aimed at first driving a wedge between Anne and Mark, and then launching an all-out campaign to win back Anne's affection by demonstrating myself as the ideal husband. This strategy relied heavily on leveraging my knowledge of their affair to undermine their relationship while simultaneously highlighting the benefits of reconciling with me. To execute this plan effectively, I meticulously outlined a series of actions considering timing and interdependent factors crucial to its success. A key aspect of the strategy was maintaining secrecy about my knowledge of the affair, requiring considerable restraint on my part. However, I was confident in my ability to exercise such discretion. Before initiating any overt actions, I awaited another report from the detective agency. Meanwhile, I took preparatory steps, such as installing a recording system on our home phones and a hidden device in Anne's car to monitor her communications. While I couldn't tap into her mobile phone, I anticipated that her car would likely be where she communicated with Mark. Accessing Anne's email account was another pivotal move. Although protected by a password, I knew where she stored her passwords and quickly gained access. With copies of all her emails forwarded to me, I gained valuable insights into the dynamics of their affair. When the detective agency provided not only photos but also video and audio recordings of Anne and Mark's interactions, I was taken aback. Despite the unpleasant surprise, I steeled myself to observe their interactions closely. To my astonishment, moments of tenderness and perhaps even love between Anne and Mark became apparent during my surveillance. The depth of their connection posed a challenge to my plan, yet I remained undeterred. Recognizing Anne's impatience and aversion to disappointment as potential vulnerabilities, I honed in on these aspects to disrupt her relationship with Mark. Simultaneously, I devised strategies to appeal to Anne's romantic nature, leveraging my access to her emails to inform my intervention. Their next email exchange provided valuable insights and opportunities for intervention, further solidifying my resolve to execute my plan with precision and determination. I needed to set the first phase of my plan in motion. "Are we still on for Wednesday?" Anne inquired, to which Mark affirmed, "Absolutely. One time, one place. I can't wait." On the day of their anticipated rendezvous, I discreetly parked near Anne's office. As soon as she returned from lunch, I casually strolled past her parking spot, ensuring no one was watching, then swiftly knelt beside her car. In a matter of moments, I loosened the valve cover on one of her tires, allowing the air to escape. Satisfied with my covert action, I returned home, pondering the impact of her suddenly deflated tire on her day. True to expectation, just 20 minutes before Anne was to meet Mark at the motel, she called me in distress, seeking assistance. Reassuring her, I claimed to have a light workload that day, assuring her that I could fix her car. However, I delayed my departure by an additional 15 minutes, nearly coinciding with the time of her scheduled rendezvous. Arriving at her location, I found Anne waiting anxiously by her car. Apologizing for the delay, I calmly explained the prolonged repair process as I strategically positioned my car to prevent her departure until I completed my task. Methodically, I changed her tire, deliberately taking my time to ensure her tardiness. Over an hour elapsed since her intended meeting with Mark as I finally completed the tire change. Expressing understanding, and resigned herself to the situation, acknowledging Mark's need for patience. Meanwhile, I observed her phone ringing repeatedly, left unanswered to avoid any potentially incriminating conversations with Mark in my presence, confirming my suspicions. Returning home, I reflected on the successful disruption of their plans, feeling a sense of accomplishment. That evening, after dinner, I pampered Anne with a foot massage, expressing empathy for her challenging day. Initially cautious, she soon relaxed under my attentive touch, her expression transforming into one of contentment. In the following days, I patiently waited before proceeding to the next phase of my plan. On Monday, I sent a lavish floral arrangement to Anne's office, accompanied by a heartfelt note expressing gratitude for having the best wife a man can have. Her warm reception of the gesture, coupled with her colleagues' curiosity, signaled a positive impact. Upon her return home, Anne shared the impression the gesture had made, prompting her to inquire about the occasion given my departure from past behavior. Seizing the opportunity, I embraced her warmly, expressing my desire to alter our relationship dynamic for the better, signaling the beginning of a subtle yet intentional shift in our interactions. If Anne ever had a flat tire on the highway, I wanted her to understand how much her love meant to me. As I shared my plan with her, she scrutinized me momentarily but then enveloped me in a tight hug, expressing heartfelt gratitude. Her response stirred a mix of emotions within me, prompting me to wonder if she harbored any guilt over her recent email slip-up. Upon discovering that the lovers were arranging a special rendezvous in the coming days, I felt compelled to disrupt their plans once more. However, this time, I hesitated to tamper with Anne's vehicle again, fearing it might raise suspicions. Instead, I allowed her to proceed to the designated meeting place without interference, while discreetly trailing her. As Anne entered the room reserved by Mark, I covertly made my way to the back of the motel and accessed the interior through a side entrance. With no security cameras to monitor my movements, I activated the fire alarm in the hallway and waited outside, observing as guests were evacuated to safety. Despite not spotting Anne and Mark among the crowd, I presumed they were inside, likely perturbed by the unexpected disruption. Back at my office, I eagerly monitored the flurry of emails exchanged between the disappointed lovers, reveling in their frustration and feeling a sense of satisfaction at the disruption I had caused. Upon Anne's return home from work, I noticed she was still visibly upset, although her demeanor shifted from tension to surprise upon discovering the meticulously set dining table and the aroma of her favorite dish emanating from the kitchen. In response to her inquiry about my sudden culinary efforts, I modestly attributed it to her delayed client appointment, assuming she wouldn't want to cook after a long day. Despite a fleeting moment of apprehension upon realizing the extent of my gestures, Anne graciously accepted my efforts, expressing gratitude for the thoughtful gesture. Following dinner, I insisted she refrain from helping with the dishes and escorted her to the office before retiring to the kitchen to complete the chores. Sensing her gaze upon me, I felt reassured that my plan was proceeding smoothly despite any lingering doubts she may have harbored. However, a subsequent intercepted email from Mark revealed his unwavering determination to pursue another encounter with Anne, prompting me to contemplate further actions. With resolve, I waited until the day before their scheduled meeting and placed a call to the Hyatt Hotel, signaling the next phase of my intervention. I notified the clerk at the Hyatt Hotel, identifying myself as Mark Bradshaw, and requested to cancel my room reservation for the following day. The clerk assured me that my cancellation was beneficial due to an impending conference, which left the hotel fully booked. Content with this outcome, I decided to visit the Hyatt to observe the unfolding events. Positioning myself discreetly behind a newspaper with a view of the reception desk, I witnessed a married couple's arrival, their initial affectionate demeanor turning into disappointment upon learning there was no room available. Mark, visibly frustrated, insisted he had booked a room days prior, while the clerk apologized, explaining that the reservation had been canceled. Mark's attempt to secure a new reservation was futile, as the hotel was fully booked. And, visibly upset, urged him to leave, and disappointed, Mark followed her to the parking lot. Satisfied with the outcome, I thought to myself, my work here is finished. When Anne returned home, I intercepted her at the door, informing her that we were leaving. Without allowing her to object, I guided her to my car, opened the door for her, and assumed the driver's seat. In response to her inquiry about our destination, I smiled and mentioned that I had a surprise plan for the evening. As we drove in silence, Anne observed me with curiosity, visibly concerned about my intentions. She inquired why we were heading to the Hyatt, to which I winked and assured her that she would soon find out. Upon arriving at the hotel, we entered the elevator, and I selected the button for the top floor. Soon, we found ourselves in the rooftop restaurant known for its signature rotating dome. Providing the head waiter with my name, he acknowledged our presence and escorted us to a table on the outer edge, offering a captivating view of the city lights. And, suspicious yet intrigued, questioned my choice of venue. I explained that there was no specific reason, merely that I thought it would be a delightful setting for my beloved wife. Though Anne remained tense, my success in securing a table contrasted starkly with Mark's failure. I casually mentioned that upon learning of their rendezvous plans, I promptly booked a table and took the liberty of ordering, and expressed gratitude, acknowledging my thoughtfulness, and her mood lightened as the waiter presented a bucket of ice and a bottle of champagne. To further elevate the evening, the waiter brought oysters on half shell, eliciting a cheer from Anne. As we toasted to the moment, her delight grew, and any lingering tension seemed to dissipate in the ambience of the rooftop restaurant, and found immense satisfaction internally, a sentiment I couldn't help but notice. While I personally didn't have a strong inclination towards oysters, and held a fondness for them, which became evident as they arrived as the main course. Following the oysters, the waiter delivered a salmon niqua salad adorned with a tantalizing black olive sauce, eliciting a smile of approval from Anne. In a moment of light-hearted banter, she expressed surprise at the absence of a heavy steak, to which I reassured her that the salad was a deliberate choice taking into consideration her preference for lighter options and our mutual desire not to indulge excessively. Though she regarded me with a questioning gaze, I opted to withhold any further elaboration. For dessert, the waiter presented us with 2 bowls of freshly picked raspberries accompanied by a dollop of whipped cream, alongside glasses filled with Grand Marnier, which Anne thoroughly enjoyed. As we embarked on our journey home, Anne loosened her seat belt and drew closer to me, a gesture perhaps influenced by the combination of libations and culinary delights. Sensing a blend of excitement and apprehension stemming from her recent dating misadventures, I guided her directly to our bedroom upon our arrival. Encouraging her to change into her nightgown, I took charge of preparing the room, ensuring every detail was in place to set the mood. And selection of a transparent black nightgown added an air of allure to the ambience, complemented by the soft glow of scented candles enveloping the guest bedroom. With a sleep mask gently covering her eyes, I led Anne to the bed, undressing her and laying her down on the crisp, clean linen sheets. Introducing the scent of almond butter and the sensation of warm water on her skin, I embarked on a soothing foot massage, gradually working my way up to her shoulders and arms. As she responded with pleasurable moans, our shared intimacy reached its zenith, culminating in a moment of blissful surrender. Removing the mask from Anne's face, I observed her drifting into a state of serene slumber or perhaps even unconsciousness from sheer exhaustion. Carrying her to our bedroom, I tenderly covered her with a sheet before retiring to my own bed, content with the evening's events. The following morning, Anne, an early riser, greeted me with a sparkle in her eyes as she prepared breakfast, expressing her appreciation for the memorable night we shared. Acknowledging her gratitude, I assured her that the experience would be etched in my memory for years to come, sensing a genuine connection between us. Later in the day, I intercepted an email exchange confirming Mark's persistent attempts to arrange another rendezvous with Anne. Despite apologizing for a previous mishap at the Hyatt Hotel and expressing confusion over a lost reservation, Mark remained undeterred, proposing a weekend getaway to their lake house in Bobby's absence. Recognizing the critical juncture my plan had reached, I realized the need for decisive action to prevent any regression in my progress. Their new plans posed a formidable challenge, one that demanded strategic intervention to maintain the momentum I had painstakingly built. I couldn't simply cancel my golf game, knowing Anne could easily find an excuse to leave if I did. It was clear that anything suspicious could jeopardize all the progress I had made. I needed a way to compel Anne to change her plans at the last minute, and suddenly, a brilliant idea struck me, the perfect solution with just one phone call. For the remainder of the week, I adhered to my usual routine, but on Friday night, I discreetly replaced Anne's mobile phone battery with a dead one. This strategic move ensured that if she attempted to call Mark over the weekend, she would have to use our home phone, allowing me to eavesdrop on their conversation. Weekends were typically more relaxed, and Anne and I dressed casually. However, when Anne descended the stairs on Saturday morning donning a beautiful skirt and blouse, it caught my attention. As the time for my golf game approached and I made no effort to leave, Anne observed me with growing apprehension. She likely anticipated having to concoct an excuse for my absence. When 10 o'clock a.m. arrived and I showed no intention of departing, and grew increasingly impatient, demanding to know if I was still planning to play golf. Just as tension began to mount, the doorbell rang. Anne, puzzled, answered it to find her sister Miriam, whom I had secretly invited for the weekend. The women embraced excitedly, and though Anne was taken aback, she was ultimately pleased to have her sister's company. Miriam explained that I had invited her earlier in the week, and since she had no prior plans, she happily accepted. Anne was delighted by the unexpected visit, and upon realizing why I hadn't gone to play golf, She appreciated the chance to spend time with her sister. Inviting Miriam to breakfast, I subtly suggested she might want to change into something more elegant than jeans, though she looked great as she was, and blushed momentarily but quickly regained her composure. As I offered to help Miriam with her bags, I discreetly excused myself to make a quick call. Later, I overheard Anne expressing frustration about her dead mobile phone battery. Sympathizing with her, I suggested she could use the home phone instead, but she brushed it off, claiming the call wasn't important. As she inquired about breakfast plans for the weekend, I focused on bonding with my sisters, attempting to lift their spirits. As Miriam prepared to leave on Sunday afternoon, she hugged me, expressing gratitude. Intentionally, she remarked to Anne, "You have a special husband." Anne's reaction was subtle but noticeable, as she winced slightly before offering a smile and returning the embrace, promising that she would. Despite my confidence that Anne had used the weekend to call Mark, I knew that my plan had effectively disrupted their plans. I wasn't concerned about the call being on our home phone, as I had it recorded. After Anne went to bed on Sunday night, I checked the recording and discovered that the call had taken place early Sunday morning. Anne had told Mark about her unexpected sister's visit, explaining why she couldn't meet on Saturday. Their conversation intrigued me, their disappointment seemed evident, and I felt I had dealt a serious blow to their relationship. Hopefully, this would be enough to confirm my assessment. Their emails on Monday showed Mark asking, "Are we still meeting this week?" And responded, "I don't think so, Mark. This is getting too troublesome and starting to annoy me. Besides, Mac has been really nice to me lately, and I feel pretty guilty about running to you behind his back. I think we need to get this over with, Mark." Mark replied, "Don't say that, and at least one more time." And insisted, "No, I'm serious. It's over, Mark." Mark expressed disappointment, but he acknowledged, "Well, I can't say I'm not disappointed. You're still an attractive lady, but I know what you're talking about. Maybe it's for the best. I don't want to lose Bobby either, but I hope we can still be friends." And assured him, "And of course, we will remain friends, just not friends with privileges." I had achieved success by introducing enough issues into their relationship that it crumbled. Now, I only needed to complete the second part of my plan. When Anne returned home that evening, she appeared downcast and preoccupied, occasionally showing signs of tears in her eyes. Not wanting to intrude but feeling the need to address her behavior, I asked with concern if everything was okay and if she was facing any work problems. She responded, "It's okay," avoiding eye contact, and mentioned that she guessed she was just in a bad mood. I nodded, giving her some space. Secretly, I felt triumphant, convinced that she was mourning the end of her relationship with Mark. Even though she had chosen to end it, sensing her sadness, I knew and invested emotions into relationships and struggled with the loss. While her mood seemed to settle, I couldn't help but think, Mark wouldn't likely share a similar reaction. Sarcastically, I thought, "He's probably with Bobby right now." The following morning, and seemed in much better spirits throughout the day. I didn't come across any more messages between Mark and her, reinforcing my belief that neither had changed their minds. It fueled my growing sense of triumph. That evening, after dinner, as Anne entered the study, I had an Edgar Allan Poe book in my lap. When she inquired about my reading choice and what it was about, I replied that it was one of my favorites, The Cask of Amontillado. Admitting that she didn't know that one, she snuggled up to me and interrupted my reading to express how wonderful a husband I was. She looked into my eyes and said seriously, "You've been so kind to me in the past few weeks, and I feel very fortunate to have you." Her expressions of gratitude made my heart soar, realizing that I had succeeded. This was the moment I had been waiting for. I gazed at her, anticipating more words from her. She paused, and for a moment, a guilty expression flashed across her face, her eyes appeared slightly moist. She fervently stated, Anne's voice quivered as she uttered, "I really don't deserve you." In response, I maintained a composed demeanor, replying, "No, I don't deserve you." Swiftly, I reached for the desk drawer, my movements tinged with determination, and with a sharp gesture, I placed the photos of Anne's rendezvous with Mark at the motel onto her lap. Initially bewildered by the sudden shift in atmosphere, and struggled to comprehend the contents of the photos. As realization dawned upon her, She erupted into anguished cries. Oh my God, no, no. Handing her a copy of the divorce application that my lawyer had submitted earlier that day. I watched as her breath caught in her throat, her words faltering, but I thought I mean, isn't there any way? Cutting through her uncertainty, I passed her another stack of papers, stating matter-of-factly, and if you're curious about Mark, here's a copy of the letter I sent to Bobby tonight, along with the detective's report. I also sent a similar letter to your sister Miriam, explaining why I am divorcing you. Anne's anguish intensified, her sobs echoing through the room. I just don't understand. You've been so loving and caring all these weeks. I can't believe you're so cruel right now. Does all this mean nothing? Maintaining my composure, I responded evenly, my dear, when you embarked on your little affair, you brought an end to all the love I had for you. That's why I spent the past few weeks endeavoring to sever your ties with Mark. As for my treatment of you, well, I aimed to ensure you comprehended the magnitude of what you lost when you betrayed me. My objective was to strip away from you the very thing you stole from me, and it appears my plan executed flawlessly. Anne collapsed onto the sofa, her cries of despair filling the room. Before departing, I placed the Poe book I had been reading atop the pile of documents, the page still open to the cask of Amontillado, and I used a marker to highlight the passage containing the Moncher family motto, "No one dishonors me with impunity."